Good evening, Darren.
Hi.
I mean, lovely to see you. It must be a huge honour to be asked to lead Manchester United, especially with your affinity to the club. What have the last 24 hours been like for you?
Yeah, it's surreal. As you say, it's an amazing honour, I think, to be able to lead a Manchester United team. I don't even think it's in my wildest dreams that was something that could potentially happen. I think even thinking about playing for the club and stuff like that, but to lead out a team is an amazing honour and something I'm really proud to do. Not in the circumstances I expected it to happen, so that obviously is something that doesn't sit quite easy with me, but I've just to think of I've got a job to do and I've got to lead the team tomorrow and think of the great honour and pride in doing that.
What conversations have you had with Jason Wilcox, Omar Barada, about how long you could be in charge for and maybe what that looks like going forward?
Yeah, so I've had conversation and it's the focus was on this game and then we'll speak after the game. So it all happened very quickly on Monday morning. I had a game to prepare and a quick turnaround, training session to organise, speak to the players. So the focus has been, because of the quick turnaround from the Leeds game, the focus has been on the Burnley match and then we'll speak after the game, because I think it's important that we give the Burnley match the respect and focus it needs to prepare the team in such a short space of time.
Thank you.
Hi Darren. Obviously the natural question people will be asking is, do you want to stay on beyond? Obviously you've done so many jobs at this club. Dan's mentioned the affinities you have to. Would you like to try and earn the manager's job full time?
Honestly, it's not something I've thought about. I'm focusing on Burnley. I think that discussions for after the game, as I said, there's been that much going on. It's all happened so quickly. All my concentration and efforts and thoughts are gone into Burnley, and I know that sounds like a generic answer, but it is what it is, yeah.
What's the backroom team going to look like for you in this game, next game, however long it is?
Yeah, so obviously Travis Binion, who leads the under-21s, who I started my coaching career with in the academy, who I've known for the 5 years that I've been here. Couldn't ask for anybody better beside me than Travis. We've got such a close relationship, worked together for such a long time, somebody I respect, somebody who I've learned a lot from. His assistant Alan Wright, who newly joined the club as well, so the under-21 staff come and join me, and Johnny Evans has come in to help as well, so somebody who's great association with the club, recently played, knows the players, comfortable in the environment, and a familiar face for the group and the players as well, so those three will assist me for the game tomorrow.
Darren, a lot's been said about Manchester United over the last few months. What is your feeling of where this club is? You obviously are the epitome of Manchester United. Is one of your tasks to reconnect it with its roots in a way?
Well, for a game, it's to try and win a football match against Burnley. I think I've had a few different roles at the club, obviously coaching the under-18s just now. My focus and energy every time I've been at the club in whatever role is always to do the best for Manchester United and try and help the club, help the people that I'm working with, the players, the staff, and try and do everything I can to help Manchester United be successful. And as we say, everyone expects Manchester United to be on the top and winning. That's the standard. That's what we all have to try and achieve. That's the standard that's set for everyone at the club. And I just do my best in whatever role I'm in to help make that happen.
And in terms of the squad, obviously Ruben's had a lot of players missing. Are any of those players going to be back?
Well, I think Ruben alluded to it. I think Mason and Bruno, I think they were pushing to play against Leeds. The decision was that they weren't quite ready, so they've trained, so they should be back in the squad. But they'll be on managed minutes as well and restricted minutes because they've obviously just returned to training. So that's good news, especially the fact that obviously players who've been in good form. Mason Mount's form has been fantastic, and Bruno Fernandes, you don't have to speak about Bruno, he's a captain, he's a leader of the team, so to have them available for selection is obviously great news for me and for the players and for the club and for the fans.
Darren, what are the chances that Jack and Tyler Fletcher get full debuts against Burnley?
Well, I'd be disclosing team information before the game, and I'm not going to do that and give anything away. Look, for me, they were in the training group on Monday because that was already arranged before I got there. They've been in the squad recently, but obviously we've got a couple of players back from injury, so we'll assess that tomorrow. We still have to assess a couple of players tomorrow as well because of the short turnaround from games. So they're in the periphery squad, but whether they make the match squad, I don't know yet. Well, that remains to be seen.
On a more serious note, what will your Manchester United look like?
Well, hopefully it looks like a Manchester United team that represents a bit of me. I think in terms of and what I know is Manchester United. So I hope it resembles a Manchester United team that fans can be proud of. that I can be proud of, and I'm sure they will, because I believe in the players. I think we've got good players, and I think we've got players who care, and I think we've got a lot of quality in that team, and I hope to give them a platform to go out there to express themselves and to show that, and also to challenge them to. It's about them, it's not about me. It's their season, it's their careers, it's their opportunity. I'm here to help them, but they're the ones who have to cross that white line and go on the pitch and make it happen, so give them some responsibility to go and do that.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has held talks with Manchester United about returning as head coach until the end of the season. The club have also held informal talks with club legend Michael Carrick, along with the current interim manager Darren Fletcher. As you can see, our football correspondent Rob Dorset has joined us for more on this. Look, developments on the interim situation, it's quite complicated, isn't it? We're going for an interim and then a permanent. And, yeah. So what can you tell us?
Right, well, look, Manchester United haven't ruled out the possibility of making a substantive appointment, the next full-time Manchester United manager, but I think their focus at the moment is on an interim manager to get them through to the end of the season, and I'll explain to you in a moment about why that might be the case. But the really big headline that we broke on Sky Sports News earlier on this afternoon is that 3 of the Manchester United favourites of the past are in the mix to get that interim role until the end of the season, and there they are all on the big screen for you. Now, look, Darren Fletcher on the end here on the right, we know he's going to be caretaker manager for the game against Burnley tomorrow night, and I suspect he will be in charge for the FA Cup third round game at home to Brighton on Sunday as well. So he's already in the mix, but he is under consideration for a more substantive role until the end of the season as well. The difficulty for Fletcher is he's been the under-18s coach. He hasn't had much experience coaching the first team, so he's probably the least experienced of these 3 that we're talking about at the level we're talking about. The other 2, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, would be a huge story if he came back. Of course, he was sacked by Manchester United in November 2021, so more than 4 years ago. But he's incredibly popular with the Manchester United faithful, and I think he would jump at the chance. He'd probably walk from Norway back here to get the chance to be in charge of it. He loved it, and he gave a very emotional farewell when he left United as well. There was no bridges burnt there and that sort of thing. And the impression I'm getting is that Solskjaer's the favourite. Now, I've not had that from any specific source. I know that they've spoken to him today. Jason Wilcox, the football director who's leading this search, has spoken to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer today, and I think it's pretty clear that Solskjaer has made it clear he would like to return to Old Trafford in this role, be it till the end of the season or whatever. And then you've got Michael Carrick, of course, who ironically replaced Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as caretaker manager back in 2021 before Rolf Rangnick took over. And in Carrick's case, he had 3 games in charge, beat Villarreal and Liverpool, so he didn't have a bad record over those 3 games. And of course, he did so very well at Middlesbrough. So arguably more experienced than Solskjaer in English football when it comes to coaching, not at the top level. And I know they've spoken to him today as well. They have spoken to other candidates, but of course it's the 3 Manchester United old boys who'll get all the headlines.
All right, Tim, we'll get your thoughts on this in just a moment. So that's kind of the interim situation, but a number of managers being linked with a permanent role at the club, and they've been speaking this afternoon. They include the man who was the bookies' favourite this morning, that is the current Crystal Palace boss.
Well, Gary Neville has said what he wants from the next Manchester United manager. He said it on the Premier League show last night. Adventurous, exciting football, playing young players, entertaining the crowd. So, who should United appoint next? We found the manager who is the closest match to Sir Alex Ferguson's style of play. And wait till you hear who is the number 1. Let's get into it. We have run the numbers on Sir Alex's final title-winning season in charge. That was 2012-13. Now, this is his radar. Now, this type of visual allows us to see lots of metrics all in one place. It tells us, for instance, that Sir Alex's attacking output was based around crosses. Look at that. The further the value extends from the centre, the bigger the strength. So let's build that out a little bit. If you put lots of crosses in like that, I guess you're likely to play with plenty of width, and look at their width per sequence as well. Much further out from the centre there on that axis. And under Sir Alex, they wanted to find their pacey wingers in those positions. They also liked to play direct as well and have plenty of shots. Now, on the other side, the closer the axis is to the centre, it can be seen as a weakness or something that United didn't tend to do very often. High turnovers. Now, that's winning the ball within 40 metres of the opposition goal, not something that United preferred to do in that final season under Sir Alex Ferguson. So that's our basic radar, and that visual also allows us to layer other managers' play style on top of it. And the shape that's generated here is an easy comparison between the two. So let's compare Sir Alex, who's in red, and Crystal Palace's Oliver Glasner, who is in the blue colour. Now, we rate him as a 64.5% match. Out of possession, they have many more high turnovers, Crystal Palace, than that United side, but they stack up quite similar with fast breaks, which is essentially counter-attacking. As you might expect, United played with a little bit more width, and as they're a team that's dominating the ball at the top of the league, they had plenty more possession as well. Open play pass sequences there. So can we improve on a 64.5% match? Of course we can. What about Ipswich's Kieran McKenna at a 66.2% match? I feel like I'm dating here. Important to point out, we are measuring McKenna's time in the Premier League with Ipswich here. But again, right, really close to Sir Alex on fast breaks. In fact, pretty much on top of each other there. And also playing direct as well. Couple of ticks in the McKenna box there. Ipswich like to get the ball out wide as well. Rather than flinging in crosses, though, if you check out Ipswich's crosses, they're right in the centre, so quite a distance away, actually, from the strength of United. Rather than putting crosses, Ipswich preferred to work the ball into the penalty area for cutbacks. And just for context on that, they have attempted the most cutbacks in the Championship this season. So we've got a couple of long-term options there in McKenna and then before him, Oliver Glasner. But can we do better than 66.2%? Of course we can. Let's get the official top 10. And number one, by the way, is a big one. The former Spurs and Chelsea head coach, Antonio Conte, is at number one with a 78.9% match. Roberto Martinez, the current Portugal manager, second on the list, given the way his Wigan and Everton sides play in the Premier League. He is a close match as well. Highly rated Stuttgart coach Sebastian Hoeneß, third on the list. And what we've been talking about as a potential interim solution, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He wanted to implement Sir Alex's style of play. It's a 77.7% match. Also in the top 10, Carlo Ancelotti. And interestingly, Fulham's Marco Silva there at 73.9%. I mean, Premier League fans would love Antonio Conte back, wouldn't they, Tim? What do you reckon?
He's definitely entertaining enough. Very good in handshakes, I think.
Yes, we remember that.
Maybe we should put Dave in charge in contact with Jason Wilcox. He could probably do it.
He's done an impressive job, hasn't he? I know. He's worked it all out for them. They need do nothing. But does that surprise you, actually, that Antonio Conte was kind of matches the Manchester United DNA more so than anyone?
No. I mean, he's one of those top managers in the world. So I think that list, the top 10, I think Manchester United fans will be happy with any of those coming back. But yeah, I think we'll talk about interim managers. It's a tricky one, I think. Like, it can go really both ways, because if you, as a playing group and a squad, know that this interim manager, is only in charge for 6 months or 5 months, really, what kind of power for the players who are kind of on the fringes? And if he doesn't win and he doesn't hit the ground running like he did last time, it can go really both ways, and Manchester United really need to get in that top 4 this year. So it's a big appointment for Wilcox to do.
In a word, would you appoint an interim or would you get a permanent ASAP?
Permanent.
Searching for an interim manager to get them to the end of the season. They've held talks with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer about returning to the club, along with legend Michael Carrick and the current interim Darren Fletcher. Football correspondent Rob Dorset is alongside me. A number of very popular men at Old Trafford in the mix then. It could potentially be a remarkable return for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer 4 years or so after getting the sack.
It could be. I mean, it is extraordinary. And look, we have to say this is potential at the moment. It's very early days, but Manchester United and the bosses there are talking to a number of potential candidates, of which these 3 former Manchester United favourites are very much in the mix. Michael Carrick, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and of course we know Darren Fletcher has got the caretaker role, certainly for the game against Burnley tomorrow night, and I would expect against Brighton in the FA Cup on Sunday as well. But what United want to try and do is get somebody in who's a safe pair of hands and who can help them maintain a position where they are in the league and around the edge of those Champions League places, and get somebody in place until the summer. because in the summer we know an awful lot more managers become available with contracts expiring. We'll talk about that in a moment. And there are other names they're speaking to other than those three Manchester United legends, but of course they're going to grab the headlines as soon as we report it. And from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's point of view, sacked by Manchester United back in November 2021, United were 7th in the Premier League then. Well, they're 6th in the Premier League now, so not an awful lot has changed in truth. But Ollie had one win in 7 at that stage. And look, his career's stuttered since then. He didn't get a job as a manager anywhere else for the next 3 years. But he came back with Besiktas in January last year, so almost exactly 12 months ago, and then was sacked in August, and he hasn't had a job since. I think it's been made pretty clear that he would love the opportunity to come back and manage Manchester United again in any capacity. He loves the club. He's got a real affinity with the fan base because of the extraordinary playing career that he had. And I think it was with a heavy heart that Manchester United sacked him back in November 2021 in the first place. But it's not just him, there are other options as well. But it would be an incredible story if Solskjaer came back until the end of the season.
The question of his stock is a really interesting one, because you mentioned his time at Besiktas there and maybe not a great success. Has history and those that have followed changed how he might be remembered the first time round, or how it might be perceived what he achieved?
I don't think so. There's an awful lot of affection for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for obvious reasons, but it didn't work for him, let's be honest. And it was a difficult time for Manchester. Every appointment they've made since Sir Alex Ferguson has had a difficult time. But if you look at some of the stats around Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, then his win record wasn't too bad for Manchester United back then. And I think, yes, there's a head and a heart debate going on here. The heart would say, let's get Solskjaer back in, but I think it makes sense maybe with a head perspective as well. And these are the stats that I was just referring to there. Look, you look at his record compared with other managers since Sir Alex Ferguson. It's not that bad, is it? Look, level with Louis van Gaal, 51.4% win rate. Erik ten Hag was slightly above him, look, but it's only Jose Mourinho who has had a significantly better win rate in that time. But I think that, if you look at those stats, that shows how much Manchester United have struggled since the Sir Alex Ferguson era. But look, it shows it wasn't a disaster. And I think from Manchester United's point of view, let me try and spell this out for you. Director of Football Jason Wilcox is leading this search. The priority is to get an interim manager in place. They may appoint somebody substantively if the conversations go well and those conversations lead down that road. But the priority is to get somebody in short term to see them through until the end of the season. No timescale's been set, but my understanding is Manchester United would like to have a more stable answer in place by the time they get to the Manchester derby on January the 17th. So it's less than a fortnight away. And there's no doubt that Darren Fletcher is in that mix. But of course, he's never had coaching experience with the first team. He's Manchester United's under-18s coach right now. And so that is a problem for him. I think United have always seen him as a really talented young individual for the future in a coaching role. Michael Carrick has had more experience. He worked under Jose Mourinho when he retired from football back in 2018. And ironically, it was Carrick who actually replaced Solskjaer as caretaker manager back in 2021 before Ralf Rangnick took over. And he didn't have a bad record, actually. 3 games in charge. He oversaw victories against Villarreal and, crucially, the old rivals Liverpool. And we know what he's done with Middlesbrough as well in the Championship. So he is probably the most experienced of those 3. So we wait to see what happens and what Manchester United do here. Is it going to be one of those 3? Is it going to be somebody else? I think the next couple of days will tell us an awful lot. And I think things could move pretty quickly from here, in truth.
Interestingly, of everything, you would say that Jose Mourinho, when he said it's my best achievement to finish second and 2 trophies, does ring true. As you touched on a little bit earlier in the chat, United might be minded to wait until the summer for more options to appear in their search for a proper long-term choice.
And there's no specific word yet on Manchester United's shortlist of the substantive candidates. And of course, that's what Manchester United fans are really interested in. Who's going to take this job on in the long term and try and get Manchester United back to where the fans want them to be, at the top end of the Premier League. But if you look at the options that you would expect to be in their field of vision, Oliver Glasner, his contract's up in the summer. Marco Silva at Fulham, his contract's up in the summer. Andoni Iraola, his contract's up at Bournemouth in the summer. It may be more difficult to get them out now, especially without paying big lumps of compensation, which Manchester United can't really afford right now. It might make sense, if they want those options, to wait until the summer. Other names you'd expect to be in the frame, De Zerbi and Kieran McKenna at Ipswich as well, who, of course, who's got Manchester United connections. So I think there are a number of options that United would want to look at in the longer term. But because it was a more sudden departure for Ruben Amorim than the club were planning, because of that fundamental breakdown in the relationship with the Director of Football, Jason Wilcox, because of that, they haven't made great strides in advancing options elsewhere. And so that's why I think it appeals to them to try and get a safe pair of hands in for the remainder of this season, to give them the time to explore all of these options properly, because that graphic we just showed you, that stat we just showed you with the results and the win rates of Manchester United managers since Sir Alex Ferguson shows that they haven't got it right since then. They've been striving to find the right option and they haven't found that. I think, as ever, the bosses at Manchester United know this next appointment is very, very important, because whilst there's some stellar names on that list you're looking at right there, win rates of just over 50% for the best of them is a pretty damning indictment of how Manchester United have done since the retirement of Sir Alex Ferguson. So the next appointment, you feel, and we've said this before with Manchester United, the next appointment of the man at the top it feels like a very, very important one.
Rob, thank you very much indeed. As Rob touched on there, just over 4 years since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer left Old Trafford. When he did go in 2021, he spoke very emotionally.
It's not for everyone, and I've had the opportunity, and I'm so honoured and privileged to have been trusted to take the club forward, and I really hope that I leave it in a better state than when I came. And I made great friends. I've reconnected with some great friends, new staff coming in. I've become really good friends with the other staff that was here when I was there. We're good friends, and we've connected, and that is that's what it's about at a club like this, with the fans, because the fans have been amazing from day one at Cardiff till the last one now. So top, and we'll see each other again.
And Mark McAdam, Rob Dorset and Kaveh Solakol all here. It's like the evolution of man with the three of you stood alongside
Starting
me.
which end?
Yeah, right. No comment. Let's move quickly on to Man United, shall we? Michael Carrick and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer have both been spoken to informally about the possibility of taking charge until the end of the season alongside the current caretaker, Darren Fletcher. Let's start with football correspondent Rob Dorset and the latest on this.
Well, look, Jason Wilcox, the Director of Football at Carrington, at the training ground, has been busy today, making informal chats with people that he's interested in potentially taking the interim role. And I think United are focusing on that interim appointment right now. They haven't ruled out the idea of maybe making a substantive appointment if they find the right candidate and things go well. But at the moment, they want to get somebody in place for the Manchester City game, the Manchester derby on January the 17th. That's the target, to try and give them a bit more stability. And 3 Manchester United former favourites are in the mix, and we've seen them on the big screen there. Michael Carrick, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and of course Darren Fletcher, who we know will be the caretaker boss against Burnley tomorrow night. And I'd fully expect him to be in charge for the FA Cup third round game against Brighton at Old Trafford on Sunday as well. But the fact that they're going to 3 old favourites, they're not the only 3 they've been speaking to, by the way. There are other candidates as well for this interim role. But the fact that they're going for those 3, I think, speaks volumes about how they want a safe pair of hands. Somebody that knows the Manchester United team, knows the Manchester United setup very, very well. So we wait to see how that develops. But I get the feeling that things are going to move pretty quickly from here. In terms of that interim role. And it's pretty quick. Look, this came as a sudden situation for Manchester United. They didn't want to sack Ruben Amorim yesterday. That was way ahead of schedule. It's because of that inevitable breakdown in relations between him and Jason Wilcox, the Director of Football. That's meant they've had to move quickly, but they're not going to rush a decision in terms of making a substantive appointment to replace him. They're looking to buy themselves some time so they get the next appointment right. And so one of these 3 would be a good option. There are other candidates they're talking to, but look, I suspect we'll have more news for you in the coming hours, and certainly by this time tomorrow, because I think Manchester United want want to move pretty quickly on this. Next key bit of information, though, Darren Fletcher talking to the media for the first time at 5:30. He's going to be asked whether he wants the job until the end of the season, of course. Been with the under-18s in charge of them. Very little experience with first-team football coaching, but Man United have very high hopes for him for the future.
All right, this is moving quickly, so we will let you go, Rob, and come to you, Carve, because if it is to be an interim until the end of the season, which in some ways feels quite sensible given the options that might be available in the summer, that would intimate that none of these three are going to be given their own players to sign over the next month.
I think it'd be really surprising if United were to do any transfer business this month. If we go back a few days to the meeting that Ruben Amorim had with Jason Wilcox at United, I think one of the sort of disagreements between Amorim and the hierarchy at United was the need to strengthen the squad this window. I think United's position has always been very, very clear. We know we need to strengthen the squad, but we will be strengthening the squad in the summer, and we have long-term targets, especially in midfield. Now, I know you're looking at me and thinking, well, how come they were in for Semenyo this month? I think that is different because he is somebody who was a long-term target and he potentially became available this month, which is why they re-looked at signing him. But I would be very surprised if whoever takes over in the short term is given funds to spend this month.
Well, the other question...
I'm not sure United need to spend this month.
Why?
Because I think they've got a really, really good squad as it is. They have plans in place to strengthen the squad in the summer, and their target this season is to finish in the Champions League places. And I think their squad is good enough to finish in the top 5, because I think finishing 5th will get you into the Champions League.
Just very quickly as well, before we come to Mark, the other point would be if you're a player, you might not necessarily want to go if you don't know who your manager is going to be.
That's a very good point, but I think you have to remember that you're talking about Manchester United. And most players, I think, if United are interested in signing them, will at least listen to what United have to say. But I don't think United will be reaching out to too many targets this month.
Mark, Carve mentioned that meeting between Ruben Amorim and Jason Wilcox and the disagreements they had on Friday, partly about tactics, but also possibly partly about recruitment as well.
Yeah, that was a key meeting, and as Carve's touched upon, it didn't go well for Ruben Amorim. There was a clash of heads with Jason Wilcox, and clearly they weren't on the same page. You see Ruben Amorim's comments at the weekend, and that's led to what we had yesterday where he left Old Trafford. The key thing I think that any new Manchester United manager has to be aware of, it's very similar to Chelsea, is that there is a structure in place at the football club. There are decision makers above the head coach, and they will be deciding essentially the players that the football club recruits. It's not about signing players for the manager, it's about signing players for the long-term vision of Manchester United. And the manager has to fit in, or the head coach has to fit into that remit. And that's very much what they'll be looking to do, not just in this window, but the summer as well. We spoke on the very first transfer show about their desire and need for a central midfielder. But again, those plans will be activated in the summer. So it's going to be some time before Manchester United starts to spend big. And of course, in the summer, one of the significant things is the club will know whether they've got European football. And European football will depict how much money they can spend in the transfer window. For example, if Manchester United get into the Champions League, into the top 5, as we expect it to be, that could be a boost of around 70 to 80 million pounds as a minimum. That will also change the dynamic of the type of players they can attract, because players will say, well, at the minute, they've got no European football. Whereas if they get into the top 5 and they get Champions League football, it suddenly becomes a lot more attractive, and the purse strings will just get released that little bit more because they'll have more income from being in Europe, which they don't have this season.
Let's move on then to a club who have sorted out their managerial vacancy. Chelsea have confirmed the appointment of Liam Rosenior as their new head.
Ya saltan 1K y el barrio. Es determinante cuánto daño puede hacer el conjunto de 1K, sobre todo con Granero en esas primeras de cambio en la salida de escalera. Así que esa parte del partido va a ser absolutamente clave para el equipo de Iker Casillas. Por cierto, felicitar porque ha venido una buena afición de 1K.
Tiene la pelota, Gerard Noya encara, sigue Noya, Noya dispara, Arnalot.
80 paradas.
Ya para Arnalot. Gil Vidal ataca desde la derecha el número 9. Gil Vidal con el centro, buena pelota, Arché, con la rodilla le pegó. Pues es el que desatasca un poco el partido, ¿no? Con centros, ojo ahí, se golpeó, el remate, ¡gol! ¡Mar Valiente! ¡Gol! Del Barrio, marca Mar Valiente. Esa banda izquierda que es terreno de los cañonazos de Granero, a la que tengo un mínimo de espacio, le pega Granero. Bueno, pues es decirlo, y ahí lo tenemos. El tema es que el remate le ha salido centrado. Abraham, buena pelota, banda derecha. Vamos a ver qué hace ahí Fran Rodríguez. Se mete en el área, sigue Fran. ¡Qué bien, Fran! Se va de dos, el remate fuera.
¡Chicos!
A ver si acierta. ¡Claro que
Mira
sí!
acá.
Busca el Barrio el segundo gol. Arché. Arché para Gil. Gil que le puede pegar a este Gil. Buen recorte. Gil al palo. Le manda Arché.
¡Dios! ¡No, no, 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 no! Madre mía, qué parada. Y a centímetros del remate, ¿eh?
No, la reacción ha sido impresionante. ¡El disparo! ¡Madre de Dios! ¡Otro que vuela! ¡Otro más! Que está la pelota para John de la Cruz, la quiere levantar, vuelve a pegar la pelota en el cuerpo de un jugador del Barrio, el remate con la puntera y acaba deteniendo al Gerard Vacas. Será córner favorable a 1K. Bueno, a ver.
Gol doble.
Gol doble. A ver, saque de banda. Balón puesto en movimiento, intentaba rematar más Valiente, el remate, ¡gol! ¡Bumper! ¡Gol!
Y es
penalti
¡madre
normal.
mía lo de los penaltis!
Penalti normal. Y el que quiere hacer el 0-3 es el número 4, pega Valiente. ¡Vaya cañón! ¡Gol! Ahí están Arnalot y Vacas como candidatos, como guardametas, y también Mar Valiente y Pau Ferojo la recuperación. Tiene la pelota al Barrio que puede sentenciar el remate. ¡Gol!
Knockout.
¡Gol!
¡Let's go, Barrio! Ponme en 5.
El cambio del partido ha sido radical en los últimos 10 minutos. El balón que lo tiene. ¡Ojo!
¡Ay! Jaimitada.
Marca de nuevo el Barrio, gol de Fran Fuentes. El equipo de Juan Arroita, que no ganaba un encuentro con esta tranquilidad, entre comillas, al final, con un margen tan amplio, con 2 goles dobles que han hecho pasar el partido del 0-3 al 0-7.
Paufer, ha costado, pero por fin ha llegado esa victoria tan deseada con goleada.
Ha costado mucho, pero bueno, le damos emoción hasta el momento final, recta final, y ahora, pase lo que pase con Pío, nos lo jugaremos contra ellos.
Eso te iba a decir, pase lo que pase con Pío, la semana que viene, o ellos, o tú, o tu ex equipo, o tú.
Bueno, o el Barrio o ellos, pero sí. La vida, yo qué sé, no sé, son cosas muy raras que suceden, pero ahí estaremos. Ahora estoy en el Barrio, así que espero que gane el Barrio.
Enhorabuena y a disfrutarlo.
Gracias.